89.1, 103.1, 103.5, 104.1, and 104.7 FM. Listen and view on DBS Radio Facebook Live and on YouTube. Give us 90 minutes and we will strengthen the connection between Dominicans residing in the lovely Nature Isle and Dominicans residing abroad. National Broadcaster DBS continues its quest to highlight and celebrate the achievements of Dominicans. We will discuss the highs and lows, the challenges and successes. Give us 90 minutes and we will solidify the connections we share with Dominicans all over. Anu celebrate achievement Dominice to latte. Connecting the dots. Tune in this Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Come join us as we weave a tapestry and strengthen our connections. Asu Radio DBS. All right, it's that time. Welcome, people. Welcome to another edition of Connecting the Dots on DBS Radio. Let me ensure that everything is going fine as we get set for another wonderful program. Should have a very wonderful discussion today on connecting the dots. So we greet you on this lovely Saturday. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. It's hot, I tell you it's hot. The sun's behavior has definitely changed for a while now, and the heat is getting more intense, even at that time of the day. But we give thanks. So let me say good morning to all of you. No laddie wife from me today. Kind of on the cool side of things, but we're gonna have a good program. So let me just join Nigel right away. Nigel Francis, good morning.
Good morning to you, my dear. Good morning. I understand your situation and I understand the circumstances. So we're sending strength and positive vibes your way and we'll get through it together. So good morning to you. And we're not going to dwell on it, but of course we have to say,
Yes.
But we still have to say on behalf of Connecting the Dots.
Yeah.
Condolences to you on the passing of your brother. And that's from the entire Connecting the Dots family.
Thank you, Nigel. Well, I'm there. I mean, it's not easy to lose a brother. He died on Thursday of this week, and yes. You realize, obviously, at these times that grief is truly overwhelming. So I'm experiencing like waves of intense and very difficult emotions at times. But I'll be fine, I have to be Nigel. We have to understand that the highs of life bring joy while the lows challenges. So it is really this interplay that shapes our characters.
It is. Right.
And how are you doing, Nigel?
Yes, I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. It's Saturday. I will take I will take your ladiwai, I will take your energy, and I will let you just chill,
hold it. Yes, hold it,
Yes.
hold it.
I will
But
hold
I
it for
cherish
you.
your happy memories, my brother. I cherish his
And that's
memories.
that's the good thing about it, is that
Because
you
he
have
used to listen to Connecting the Dots. He was,
every
a
time.
big fan of Connecting the Dots.
Every time. He was a constant listener. So that's the good thing about it. You hold on to those beautiful memories, and that's what's going to carry you through. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, of course.
yes, definitely so. Definitely so.
But Nigel, even amidst though the crying, guess what came to mind, especially on Thursday, because my brother died on Thursday afternoon, just after 2. Guess what came to mind and made me smile at some point. Even,
Apart from me, let me see what.
Why Nigel? If I tell you, why Nigel? Let me tell you what came to mind.
Tell me.
They are eating the dogs. They are eating the cats. They are eating the pets of the people who live there.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Man, Nigel Alexander, there's never dull moments. And even, amidst despair, you always get something that makes you smile.
Yes. And this particular man always provides you with those moments, to come up with that. And then to
so
even
what about
share
you,
it.
Nigel? What about you? How are you doing?
I'm all right, I'm all right. I'm not eating any pets. I'm good. It's okay. It's Saturday. The week went by, did what we had to do, and here to connect with our wonderful guest in a little bit. I wish I was where she was in that, nice background on the beach and chilling. And, that's the wonderful thing of technology, or she might actually be on the beach. You never know. But I'm looking forward to connect, man. Looking forward to connect. It's been a good week. So, we'll take it from there and make it happen.
Good week, but sad news again, quite a few people have died this week. Some sudden death, some you anticipated, but it's a lot. It's a lot. But
Wilbert Willis wants to ask, what's your brother's name? I mean, I can provide it, but I'll give you the option.
Oh, my brother's name is Alvin John Baptist.
All right, so you got that right, Wilbert? Yes. And somebody wants to know, I wonder why you're looking a little sad. I guess they joined us a little late. Yes, unfortunately. Well, I don't say unfortunately, but Ivona's brother passed away on Thursday, but she's here connecting with us today. So you see how important it is. And the good thing about connecting with us is going to allow you for the next hour or so to kind of, I don't want to say forget, but kind of immerse yourself in the discussion and hopefully bring an extra smile on your face. So, yes.
I needed the distraction. So I say, of course, I'll go ahead and do the program.
Of course.
Today, by the way, Nigel, today and tomorrow, National Days of Prayer.
Oh, yes. As we begin getting ready for independence celebrations, starting it out with prayer. So today and tomorrow, National Day of Prayer. So go wherever you worship, go out there and worship and be part of the process. And give thanks to, the Almighty for bestowing His beautiful land upon us and for allowing us to be part of the process, in Dominica. So go out and worship wherever you are, wherever you do worship. So that's beautiful as well, Yes.
So we had a very good program last week, by the way, and the response after was overwhelming as well. Very, very interesting discussion. With Michael Pascal and Heather.
Yes.
Heather Evans Phillips.
Yes.
Two young people.
Yes, 2 young people that continue to show the importance of education and what they're doing. And, so that was wonderful. We've gotten some nice reviews, after the program, a few people contacted me. They wanted to contact Michael. And they wanted to get some more information. And then they wanted to let us know how important it is to continue that process. Wonderful discussion.
Definitely. And I always learn a lot from the conversation on the live, Nigel. That's another thing, especially when we have the time after and you can go through the questions that were asked.
Yes.
The conversation there is always, for me, the highlights of the programs. And there are times when we get so caught up in the discussion itself and we don't always have the time to ask some of the questions on the live.
Yes.
As I said, for me, that's one of the highlights of Connecting the Dots, the participation of the CTD family, Nigel. So I like to review the comments, and also put a face to the name at times, because sometimes you see a name and you say, well, I know that person from, way back when.
Always go back and look at it and see the kind of conversations that they're having and the discussions that's going on.
Yeah.
So that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah.
Why is Alvin after me this morning then? Okay, Alvin. Yes. He wants to remind me.
So what is the book saying? What is the book saying?
Alvin Thomas, good morning. He was for about 4 minutes late, so that's okay. Lauren Joseph wants to tell you accept the sympathy. Alvin Brady, accept my sympathy. Alvin wants to remind us tomorrow is International Day of the Rivers, and because of that, he wants us to name 6 rivers in Dominica. It's trouble there now. 6 rivers in Dominica. I coming back to you, Alvin. Astrid Pina, good morning. Condolences. 6 rivers in Dominica. I coming to you, Alvin. Yes. Eddie John Baptist, of course. Good morning.
Yeah, that's my brother.
Good morning to him. Always locked on. Can't miss out on your show. Hey, Joker was very early. Roll call, please. I'm here in the UK, so good morning to you, Joker. I'm always early. Good morning, Teacher Nigel. Good morning, Principal Ivona. Accept his condolences as well. Rosalind Severin McLean. So everybody who's locked on, good morning. Appreciate it. Jennifer Coffey, good morning to you. Miss Virginia Matthew, she got something there. So yes, she wants to tell you, Ivona, my sympathy to you and your family. Hold strong and God bless. Yes, today's going to be a lot of sympathies and condolences as you expect.
But sometimes even the greeting is good, but sometimes it just stirs up something when someone asks of your sympathy.
Yes.
You accept it, obviously. That's what we have to.
Yes, you have to.
Sometimes you can just bring back. Yeah.
Sure.
I hear something wrong, man.
I'm not sure what happened. I was talking and then suddenly I didn't see myself.
Okay, Falk, what did you almost take me there?
So I suddenly didn't see myself. Yes.
Okay.
Catherine Janice Leighton Armour, good morning to you. I know all the way from California. We really appreciate you waking up early and being part of connecting the dots. We love that. So we're gonna get ready to connect. Yes.
Yeah, we should get ready to connect. But you have to answer the questions.
Hold on, I'm drinking some water. Hold on.
You have a question to answer. Remember about the 6 rivers.
The 6 rivers. I come in. Hold on, let me drink some water. Hold on. I don't know what happened to me.
All right.
Hold on. I come in.
Drink your water. Mind your business as well. Yes. But as I said, it's really a pleasure to connect once more. Nigel, another thing as well. When you say we send out the flyer, Nigel, the phone goes crazy as well. There's a lot of messages, and especially in this case for our guest, I learned so much about her even before we have her on. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
Yes.
When we have the flyer, people say, "Oh, what? To me, I know her. She's so and so. Oh, is she that? Oh," I'm like,
yes.
I'm like, man, her entire business out there so early, and we haven't even talked to her yet, and they know her from there.
And I got a. Yes, Rosalind Severin McLean let me know that she was in the group, the girls group. Remember when we had Rosalind as a guest? And Joe P, by the way.
She was in the girls band group.
Yes, so we have to find out about that. Joe P, she and Joe P, they are cousins. So I learned that as well from Joe P.
Okay.
And I learned as well. She taught, is it Sober's Esprit at SMA? But anyway, we'll get this story.
Oh man!
Can I just go ahead and answer your question?
Yes. And then
it's an SMA thing.
Of course,
answer your question now.
A few of the older PET members also, contact me and say, "Wow, you have Rose." So people like Noreen Joseph and Slash Banis and the others, who connect to the Rose back then. You will find out about that. What question I have to answer? I tried to move from the question.
Like 6 rivers,
I tried to move away from that. 6 rivers.
I give you one. Live
Canawe. Rosa River.
I'll take that, yes.
Well, of course, Rosa River is a river.
So I gave you one, so you have 4 more.
You have hold on, that river there in Monjon there. What Elise, what's that river name in Monjon? That river there, River Syric there. What's the name of the river? Okay, she far.
Well, there's a Rosalie River. That's
just a Rosalie River.
In La Plaine, it's Staberi.
I trying to remember the name. What's the name? She usually connects with us. I haven't seen her this morning yet. What's the name again from La Plaine? Please let us know what's the name of the river in La Plaine. What are the river that? You know what? If you're smart, you just go and say all them villages there. So Mao River, Rosa River, Kinfield River.
There's a place I used to go to in Grand Pond collect water, Marak. So that's like a river, Marak. So
Marak,
I think we have 6.
I think that's 6. Yes, that's 6. If you, Alvin, you get your 6 rivers? Okay, good. Yes. Alvin also says she taught at SMA during my time. Suba's Esper and I were in the same class. Interesting. Let's see, this person want to give us a river. Indian River. See the easiest one now we forget it.
Indian River, yes.
Yes, Indian River. Thank you, Anthony Simon. He give us all of them. You say Indian River, Hampstead River, Lai River, Concord River, Rosa River.
That's good.
Yes. I wonder if those rivers actually have a name though. As we say rivers, I know someone like Father Coffee is very instrumental in the Day of the Rivers.
He still is. And
he always part of that, Yes, Alvin, we have 365. I give you 6. You want me to give you more? Anyway, we still have you Roseau, Indian River. We call all of them already. So we have our rivers. That was a Dominican corner, I guess. Thanks to Alvin Thomas for that, for reminding us tomorrow's International Day of Rivers. So we're ready to connect with our guest?
Yeah, we're ready to connect.
Yes, you want to have the pleasure.
Let's pray, Elijah. Let's pray.
We haven't prayed. That's the problem, Let's and then I'm going to send you something on the prayer that we have to do,
Yes,
so let's gather together. Heavenly Father, creator of mankind and the universe, we thank thee for the gift of life today and all the blessings you continue to bestow on your children. We seek your presence and intervention throughout this program. We ask that you keep us connected always. We also pray for the success of the program, its coordinators and listeners, that they may find purpose and enjoy what we share. Bless our radio station and the nation, and may we grow to love and unite with each other, irrespective of our differences. All this we ask in your name, now and forever. Amen and amen. Yes, we always give thanks. So we are here and we are ready to connect. So let me say good morning to you, our wonderful guests, Dr. Rosalind, LaRocque, Caines, and all the rest of it. We'll find out all about that. But good morning and welcome to Connecting the Dots.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. The view behind me is something I think about all the time. So it's my signature background because it reminds me a lot of Dominica.
Wow. Well, it's really a pleasure to connect. I remember when the contact was made, when someone called me, in LaRocque, called me, and we had a nice discussion, and I was like, wow, So I'm very happy that we made this happen. And what we have been doing for September in particular is focusing on education. For the past programs we've had. So it's really, really a pleasure to have you on. And I know we're going to have good discussion. We will enjoy ourselves, all right? Nice, Nigel?
We will. We will be enjoying ourselves. We'll be learning, sharing, and, going through the process and the journey together. So that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah.
So again, we always like to go back. For those who don't know, it's always nice to find out a little bit about our guests before we get into their actual, what they're doing, and, on the books that they've written and the schools that they have taught and all the rest of it. So tell us a little bit about you in terms of, what part of the Caribbean you're from. What part of the Caribbean are you from?
The only wonderful island, Dominica.
Thank you. I love when I hear that. And what part of Dominica?
Roseau, but I live in Goodwill.
Okay, Roseau, but you live in Goodwill. Sorry, somebody saying on the message. That's right. So you're from Roseau, but you live in Goodwill, and of course, I'm not guessing. I'm sure that you grew up in the time in Roseau, and Roseau is different than it is now.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. What is it like back then?
Well, back then people were very, very close. It was almost like a village raising you, your neighbors, as much as I didn't like it as a kid, but the neighbors were almost like your parents.
Mm.
So they tattletale on you if you did something wrong. But they also help mold you. We were very much into culture. And I can go way back to age 4, which was my first introduction to Miss Sissy Corderon. And I had my first warp duet, and I danced my first local dance. My mother was very much into carnival. That part of me grew as well. Not so much my dad, but my mom. So we ran carnival together. And somewhere along the line, I got into dancing and music, but I do come from a musical family on my mom's side. The town was very close-knit, like I said. The stores, you kind of knew them like the back of your hand. You knew where to go. And movies, going to the movies was really one of your forms of entertainment. You weren't really allowed to go clubbing. That wasn't a big thing, at least when I was there. But you did go to the movies, and school dances were very popular at the time.
School dances. We'll find a little bit about that because we had a guest once called Rosalind McLean, who told us about some great times that she had with a band, and just found that you were part of that. So we'll talk about that a little bit. When you mentioned your mom, if you want to share, who was your mom?
Oh, my mom, well, they knew her fondly as Nurse Caines. But she came from Point Michelle, and her maiden name was Toussaint. But she was Nurse Caines, and she worked at the hospital, St. Margaret at the time. I think that's what it was called.
Yes,
Caines.
yes.
That's not a common last name, though, Amigo.
What's that?
Caines is the last name. Caines.
Well, my father's father was from St. Kitts. So that's where that comes from, yes.
All right.
But he was a dispenser. He also worked at the hospital as well.
Okay.
Okay, so you had that medical background, but you decided not to go into that. We'll find out why later on. School dances. So what was school dances like? Was it on the weekends, during the week?
I think it was more on a Friday evening. And unlike dances now, it was heavily supervised.
Give us an example. Paint a picture for us. Let me see how that was.
Well, you had lots of chaperones. Just policed the floor, making sure that nothing, unacceptable was going on. And I chuckle at myself because I remember if the dance ended at 10, by the time I left St. Gerard's Hall, my father was standing under the lamppost with the car, waiting to take me home. So it was that. It was more rigid. There were more constraints. It's a little freer now.
A lot freer.
Oh yes,
Things have changed.
You can imagine you're in the dance like, and then your daddy and whoever else and all the rest looking to see what's going on.
Yep.
Yes, not much you can do, eh?
Well, especially now, Nigel, when you look at our music now and a lot of the songs, our lyrical content of many of our songs, just imagine a parent being outside and the trainers on the inside. Like Nigel?
No, the dance would have stopped.
Problem there.
Yes, the dance would have stopped. The dance would have stopped. Was it like a mixed, or was it like you'd have students from convent, SMA, Wesley High, and so on, or was it just like
I think it was mixed.
It was mixed, okay.
And at that time, convent and SMA were very, very close schools. And I actually, in my adult life, worked at both schools.
Yes.
How far back can you go, though, Dr. LaRocque? How far back can you go in terms of education? I guess you would have gone to preschool?
Yes. So I went to the convent all the way, convent high school. And
but no, I'm talking about before convent high school. I want to get a feel of how preschool days was like for you if you had gone to early, preschool at the age of maybe 4, around that time.
3. Yes, there was a lady somewhere in Goodwill that had a little preschool right across from the hospital, and I don't remember her name, but I remember the house.
Okay.
Right after you take the roundabout and you pass the home for the Phillips, cross the street, that house sitting there on the right side was where I went for preschool. So that's where they kind of hammered the reading, the writing, a little bit of counting, the colors, all the things that happens there.
Right. And then from there, you'd have gone to convent prep, I'm guessing?
And from there, yes, I went to convent prep. Yes.
And is it the same place where convent prep is now, or was
yes.
it? Yes.
It hasn't moved.
Okay.
Hasn't
But
moved.
was it different then? I understand from someone sent me a picture long ago of a convent prep where there was like a big veranda or something. Or was it the convent school? Trying to remember.
The school. I don't remember the prep having a veranda, but I know what you would call, middle school, high school. You have those big verandas, 2 stories.
Right.
At the back with the yard, and then further back is the botanical gardens.
Mm-hmm.
What was convent prep like? If you remember, what was it for you?
It was interesting. One of the things I fondly remember is one of my classmates. We were both very obese at the time, and it was funny fighting to sit on the bench and figuring out which part was mine and which part was his. But there was a lot of fun. We learned a lot, reading. The rules were the rules. I mean, you didn't question rules at those days. You conformed, and it was very interesting. A little different because most of the educators were nuns, not lay people. So that put another spin on the process of educating. And as I got older, what struck me was how much culture makes a difference when you are an educator. Because remember, they were submerged in the culture. They weren't from the culture. And so therefore, that was a little disconnect, but it didn't do too bad.
That's definitely a discussion we want to have later on in terms of the link between culture and education.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that point. Oh, Sandra Norris wants to say the school was Miss Winston School. The school was downstairs of my home. And she also wants to say hi to you. She hasn't seen you for so many years. So you're going to get a lot of that this morning. Just people who haven't seen you for so long. So that's going to be happening. And then from convent prep, of course, convent high school, right?
Correct. Yes.
Did you back then? Did you have to like sit on exams like, oh, we have common entrance, or we have grade 6 assessments now, or was it just a natural progression from prep to high to convent high?
It was if I remember well, it was a natural progression. I think where the exam came out, there was something in 4th form that you took, and then you went to 5th form, and that's where you got ready for your GCEs. And then you had the option of spending 2 years in, we used to call it CFOCAL. I don't know if they've changed the name. But if you did 2 years of what you call advanced GCEs, you did a matriculation exam for, at that time they called it UWI, now they call it the University of Barbados, which is where I went.
Okay.
So that was my progression into the University of Barbados. So that's where I did my first degree in Barbados.
Okay, so we want to get to that, but I want to go back a little, because one of the highlights of the program as well, especially when we are discussing with our guests, about their childhood days, we want to get a feel, we like to get a feel rather, of community life. Was it like? Of course, you mentioned your father having to come outside the dance, and all of that. But give us a sense of how the community that you grew up in was, how it shaped you. What was happening there? The shop owners, did you have, shop owners? So just give us a picture of what community life was like back then.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The community was built on respect, a decency. You couldn't be rude in those days. That's the word they use. We'll say elder. You respected everyone regardless. There was a lot of empathy for others. I can use my own example with my mom, where I say, Mom cooked a lot, even if the family wasn't huge, but she cooked to have extra in case someone came by and said they were hungry. And she had special dishes, this was what we would use for the folks who came and said they were hungry. The shops were pretty much, I think like they still are, owned by local people.
Mm.
And they ended up, there was a personal touch where people knew you before you even came through the door. And sometimes they even knew how much of what you came for. They were very eager to tell you about their products. It wasn't like today where you go in and you ask someone and they said, well, I don't work in that section. You have to go somewhere else to find it. They knew what was there and they were very happy to tell you, regardless of who you stopped. Everybody had a vested interest in wherever they worked. So, and there was just a lot of love. It was love, music, fun. That's the Dominica I remember.
Yes, yes, yes. So, by the way, Hamilton Joseph wants to say good morning. He says, "Oh gosh, this is my former neighbor, Bonja. Used to live in Jepson's Lane. I guess Jepson's Lane, maybe. Very good neighbor. Her mom was a nurse. Her dad used to be a pharmacist. She was also in a dance group with this Edwards lady from Marigot.
Yes.
So, your whole story coming out today, Rose. So." What about like the music at the time, during that time, as I want to mention? What kind of music was being played? Was it like calypso? Was it gospel music? Did Kada start to make its way in? What was some of the music you grew up on?
Okay, so you're gonna laugh, but at some point in my life, I played the piano. So I was much into Bach and Beethoven and those guys. Then my dad loved jazz. My mom loved calypso. And I brought in hip hop.
That's a one pot.
And whatever they call the music at that time. And so I grew up with a lot of music. And like I said, with my mom's family, there are tons of musicians. Carlton, Winston, and First Serenade is my cousin. Roots and Branches, I forgot what the other name was.
Yes, Roots, Stems, and Branches.
And Branches. Maxie is my cousin on my mother's side. And then I have Jean Toussaint on my mother's side, who's a well-renowned jazz artist in England, is also my cousin. So I grew up with a lot of music around me. And somewhere around when I was 13, I discovered my talent of choreographing dances, and I pursued that. Now, you have to remember, I was an only child, so I found lots of things to fill my time with. You asked about community, going back to that. The convent had a group called Young Christian Students. And what we did is we went to the infirmary and we read to the old people that was there, or we went to the hospital and worked with kids who were orphaned and spent time with them on a Saturday.
Interesting.
Community, I know.
Yes. And of course, I think you mentioned at that time, the elders had the right to discipline you.
Correct.
And of course, you couldn't complain. I mean,
nope. I mean, I did sometimes. I did sometimes. I say what my grandkids say. I have one parent.
No, back then the entire village or community were your parents.
That is correct.
Yes. What about sports at the time? Do you recall like who were some of the teams that were within the Goodwill Roseau area in terms of sports?
No, I'll be very frank with you. Sports was not something on my radar at all.
Okay.
My husband will tell you I am all about dancing and choreographing and music.
Yes.
When did that
I won't go to a game, but I'm not tuned with that.
Okay.
So you were all about dancing. Was it more at the secondary school level? You were doing a lot of dancing?
Yes,
when you
I
went
was
to Government High School?
13 when I started my dance group.
Tell us about this, that love for the arts. At that time, of course, a defining moment for you, a teenager in a high school, you love dancing and you love all of that. Let's go there.
Yeah, I think it was rooted in the fact that at age 4, like I said, I was introduced to Dominican art through Sissy Cordero. And it's one of those things that came to me. Nobody molded me. Nobody told me about dancing. It just happened organically.
Mm.
I can't put a finger to say, well, so and so influenced me. It just happened. And my friends, I guess, we said we could make a dance group, couldn't we? And that's how it happened. I can't remember if Siflemotine was already in motion. It might have been, but it didn't really influence the kind of dances that we did because I did more of the creative type of dancing. And sometimes we did the Caribbean type of dancing to Caribbean music. So the kinds of things you would now see in Trinidad. So we kind of went through the spectrum, everything except ballet. Yeah.
What was the dance? What was the dance group called?
La Belle Theatre.
La Belle Theatre.
The beautiful theater.
The beautiful theater. Yes, yes, yes. And did you have boys and girls, or was it mainly an all-female dance group? Or?
Oh no. It was a mixture of boys and girls.
Do you remember some of the people in the group?
Oh good Lord, Jennifer Wallace, Joyce Christian. You're putting me on the block now.
Well, you've already given us
Roy Mason, Michael Tija. Oh my gosh.
That's a lot you remember.
Casey Edward from at the airport. A mom used to work at the airport. She was with us. Oh, I'm blanking on some names.
That's okay, because
it was a big group.
One of the good things about this program is that people, our Connecting the Dots family, they always help us out.
Right.
So Rosalind Severin McLean is saying Arnolda was another member.
Yes.
Jumaine Edwards was the one from Marigot.
Yes.
That was also there. Mary Therese Williams. Look, names are coming now. Of course, Carol Sever Abraham says she remembers you in those years. She remembers La Belle Theatre or La Belle Theatre days. So you're gonna get all the names coming through in a little while. So that's okay. You can't break your brains. They're gonna help you out.
I like this, Nigel. I'm really learning a lot. And it just, I always have to always say this. We had to document these things, and I'm hoping that people take this seriously. For posterity, we have to document these things, because I didn't know about La Belle Theatre. That's the first time I'm hearing this.
Yes.
And I really wish that there's somewhere I could go and read
up on La Belle Theatre.
Yes, on La Belle Theatre. And
well, I don't know where. I don't know how to get to it, but I did know that wherever Jamaica had their archives for Caribbean artists at the time, it was documented there. I never saw it. I just know somebody said, do you know that you're documented in the archives in Jamaica? Because I think they had I can't remember the guy's name, but they had one of their main dancers, and he was also making some waves in the Caribbean. We did really well with La Belle Theatre because we ended up going to Guyana for the first Carrie Festa to represent Dominica. And drama was also one of the things I was interested in. So I did do acting with People's Action Theatre with Alwyn Bully. And the show we did in Carrie Festa, 1972, I think, was Speak Brother Speak, which had been written by Daniel Cordero, and I was the lead actor with Lennox Honeychurch in that show, in that play. So it has been interesting. It's like I said, that's the part of me that I like, the arts, but I don't do sports. Even if all my kids are in sports, all my kids did basketball, softball, volleyball. That's on their father's side.
Yes,
but they sing. They all sing. So, and they're into music. So they're very well blended. They don't want anybody to feel left out.
So were you all popular in Dominica back then? Were you much appreciated?
I think I was. I mean, a lot of people knew the dance group, and sometimes they'd say Rose Caines group, and I would remind them it's La Belle Theatre because it's all of us, We all made the group. I couldn't be known without the group, so it was a we thing. And yes, lots of people knew who we were. We did put on shows in Dominica to raise funds. And sometimes we would use the boys and them to provide the music. It used to be in the second theater that was built, the movie house that was built, the new one. Not not Carib, the other one.
Right, right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would put shows on there, and we danced at hotels every weekend to raise funds. And during the summer, traveling by boat was very cheap in those days. We would find a parent who would chaperone with us, and we would go to places like St. Lucia for a month and put on shows around St. Lucia for that month and come back home.
Wow.
So,
Wow, that's history then, Nigel.
Yes,
I like
yes,
this.
yes. And I'm thinking of that back
Yeah.
in the, I guess that was like in the 70s, early 80s kind of a thing. And to have that level of I guess discipline and the group being able to perform outside of Dominica and within Dominica, that probably laid the foundation for you later on, which we'll talk about in a few. Yes, yes, yes. But in terms of the theater, what was it like? I mean, for you, of course, you had People's Action Theater, which is probably the only theater group at the time. What was the experience like with Alwyn and Lennox and everybody else?
Oh, Alwyn was a genius and very creative, and the group was a gelled group, and we had fun. So they became like an external family, because remember I said I was an only child. So they became like that external family that where I could express the other part of myself and have fun doing it. So that was really nice. That was a really, really, really great part of my life.
Nigel, I'm look. The live is busy, Nigel.
It is. Listen, it is so busy. I can't even keep up. But there's all the connections that's happening this morning for you. Yes.
So Nigel, if I can just add this piece, I carried this into my adult life, and when I taught in convent, I had the drama group, and we put on Speak Brother Speak. We put that show on, among others, but I say that one because at that time, that was a real popular show. We got the script, and with the kids, we put on Speak Brother Speak.
Nigel, you're enjoying this, right?
I'm enjoying this. This is down my lane. I'm enjoying
this. Yes, down your lane, of course. Yes.
I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this. Of course, I remember Speak Brother Speaks. I'm enjoying this.
So I want to find out about your high school days, though. What was convent high school like? The uniform, what was the uniform like? And give us an idea.
Well, the uniform was hot. It was hot. Yes. I mean, the skirt was this black heavy thing, and then we wore ties. Strange for girls wearing ties, but that was the uniform. It was strict, but it provided, what should I call it? It provided a template where you could succeed if you wanted to, but it didn't allow those who wanted to be lax to be lax. So you could either dig in and be progressive for yourself, but if you were lax, they had mechanisms in place to help you not be lax. So it was, it was interesting. Remember, it was a convent high school. So we always, I'm not sure we always did, but we looked forward to going to church and going to confession. And we laughed a lot because when we went, we said, we hope it's not Father Gillard. Because he would repeat whatever you said, and anyone sitting 2 rows back would hear what it was. But we had fun with it, and it molded that spiritual side of you,
Looking back at it then, do you think that in some way it kind of laid a foundation for the educational journey you're going to find yourself on later on?
Not really. Not really. Okay. Not really. So remember when you introduced me, you said both my parents were in the medical field. Okay. So guess what? I was groomed for 3 years of Latin in preparation for the medical field.
Wow.
And if you remember, in 4th form, you got tracked in 4th form. You went to the science field, or you went to the arts, or you went to the trade area, right? And I remember I had my paper for the medical field. And I went up to sign up for the science track. And I happened to ask the lady, how long does it take to be a doctor? She said 7 years. I told her I'll be right back. And I went back to the office and I said, can I please have the form for the humanities? I'm going to teach. And I took my paper, I signed up, and when I went home, I told my parents, I'm going to teach. But they couldn't say much because my grandfather was a headmaster. So I said, I'm going to teach like grandpa. And if they were disappointed, they said absolutely nothing. But there was a hush, a silent hush where no one said anything. No one did even say congratulations. They just nodded, and that was it. But I don't regret it. And my husband always teases me and say, well, 7 years and look at what you ended up doing more than 7 years. So I said, yes, but remember, I would not have gotten married until I was finished with my doctorate degree as a doctor. By then I'd be an old woman, so who would want to marry me?
He wouldn't have been there today, so you should probably say thank you didn't do the medicine,
right? Because I would not have gotten married in the middle of that journey.
But in terms of the nuns though at convents, and they, I mean, because at that time the nuns were the ones running the convents. Was it pretty strict? Did you have a certain rules that we had to follow, which of course we find might be absent in our education today?
Well, so here's the part that I see as I've done education in my life. There's a saying that says that if parents are involved, kids succeed. Now, we have to figure out how we involve the parents. But just taking that statement on face value, there's a wealth of truth in that. And therefore, you have to understand that when we were going to school, our parents knew our teacher. That was a very close connection. So the space for you to slide was very narrow. Because the last thing you wanted was for them to call your parent to the school. And when your parents heard nothing, they would call to get an update. So in my time, I would say that parents were so involved that students or children found it really difficult to slip and get away with it, because that support or network system was there and in place. Later on in life, as age bearing got younger and people had to sort of survive economically, we found there was less of that interaction as we had younger people entering the workforce, but a workforce that was also occupied with making ends meet because now they had a family. So that kind of connection somehow loosened. And therefore, with that loose structure, a lot can happen in between.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting, because I just want to go forward a little with all this come back. Because you have a publication, Reform, I think, Reform versus Dreams.
Preventing students failure. Preventing students failure.
So so that really provided a roadmap for education. I am sure it remains relevant, Doctor. Let's backtrack on that project and the message therein as we are focusing on education.
So that book was actually an output from my thesis for my PhD. In 1990-91, as I taught in the Virgin Islands, I was selected by the American Federation of Teachers to get a fellowship and spend a year in Washington, D.C. My job was to look at instructional methodologies in the US, and I had a budget, and travel to see where they were actually being done. So not just sit and read and say this is happening, but go and see what it looks like in real life. When I came back, I was supposed to have been the restructuring specialist for St. Croix, for the St. Croix district, which means taking a look at the system and based on the knowledge I had, figure out what needed to change to improve the system. But like everything else, we got into a conversation of who would I work for or who would I belong to, the union or the government or the Department of Education. And they struggled to answer that question so much that school started and they still had not created they had created the contract, but they couldn't decide who I belonged to. So nothing really happened. And I ended up staying at my school. Now, at my school, I had been just an educator. Then I became a department chair. Then I became a master teacher through the AFT's local program, and hence why I was chosen to go to Washington, D.C. My principal said, "You're going nowhere. You're going to stay here, and you're going to tell me what I need to do to improve my school." So I said, "Okay, you're going to tell them that?" He said, "Yes." And he gave me a little office to work from. I worked from the back of my car for a few months while he found me a space for an office space. And I had 4 teachers working with me: math, science, social studies, and English language. And I helped with the following things. Let me just back up. School starts, he looks at the roster and he says, "All right, I've got something for you to do for me." I said, "What?" He says, "There's 16 kids coming to this school this year. And if they come and we have nothing in place, we can expect mayhem and havoc. Because these are kids that fight. They had issues with the law. Some of them don't talk to their parents. And the whole list of what you would call an at-risk kid." And I said, "Okay." So I got the 4 teachers I wanted. I said, let's concentrate on the 4 major areas. And by the way, those kids were coming into 10th grade because my high school was so overpopulated that they had put 9th grade, which would have been I'm trying to create the systems now. 12th grade for them is our 5th form.
That would have been like third form, about third form.
So they were starting their 2nd year of high school of the 4-year program at my school, having lost a whole year in junior high because now 9th grade was in junior high. So they're coming with that loss, behavior issues, and everything else. So I said, all right, I want a wing of the school, 4 classrooms, and we are going to use that wing and create a program that supports that lesser, all the things that you think they are guilty of. One was not going to class. One was not feeling they belong or they have a family. The other was they didn't even know why they were in school. What's the purpose of school? And you can go down all the things that at-risk kids are facing. So that's when I developed the program based on the knowledge I have. There was no one program like that out there. What I did is I eclectically put together pieces of programs to address the issues. So if the issue was you didn't belong as a family, there are 2 major things that program did. You were on one wing. I don't know how easy it is to get lost and don't show up to your next class when the next class is right next door. And we did scheduling where we took the kids and created groups that moved as a group to the same class. So the relationships that developed were strong enough that if you were not in school, it was so close that I would call you and tell you what the homework was and let the school know that you were sick if you didn't want to call and that sort of thing. So we put a lot of pieces in that program to support at-risk kids. We negotiated that we had 4 classes, not 5. Much to the chagrin of our colleagues, regardless of the fact that we were really trying to do good. And I told the principal we would use the last period for meetings, for planning, for anything, or even meeting with parents. And when we met with parents, it wasn't one teacher meeting with her parent to complain. All four teachers and myself met with the parent, so they got a balanced report. But 3 people were not having a problem. 1 person was having a problem, and that kind of made it easier for the parents to work with us. So that's how we met with the parents. And then when it came to the 16 kids, I told the principal, we cannot have a program for 16 kids that are already not functioning where you want them to function. They'll just feed off each other. And the worst person will be dominant enough where the other people will just vacillate to them. I need a program. So by the time we were finished scheduling, we had 483 kids in the program distributed by 4 teachers. And we were able then to study how the kids who were in our program were doing with the kids who were not, because they took the same common tests at the end, but our instruction was different. When those kids walked into the classrooms the first day, I said to them, we're developing a survey. We want you to answer it truthfully. We were only interested in one question on that survey. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? And whatever they said, we took that information, we created a career program, and once a month or twice a month, depending, we would have assemblies where people in those professions that they highlighted would talk to them. And they were in 10th grade. We negotiated with the guidance counselor that when the scouts come for the 11th and 12th graders, we will escort them to the program so they can talk to the people, because 11th grade is kind of cutting it close and 12th grade is kind of late. But we understand it may work for whoever it works for. So we took them there. And I'll tell you, when those kids left us in 10th, they constantly looked back for us. And when educators were having difficulty with them for whatever reason, they came to us and said, could you please talk to so-and-so? So we tracked them all the way to 12th grade. One kid left. In that 16, 1 left the program to join someone overseas, so they didn't graduate. All 15 graduated. And the girl who said she wanted to be a nurse is a nurse in Miami now, unless she's moved. The guy who said he wanted to be a cop ended up being a cop in St. Croix. And I have the whole list of professions, and they did pursue those professions when they left school. The one who said she wanted to own her own hairdressing salon ended up getting her hairdressing salon. And when I went back to St. Croix, I went to her salon. What did we do for her? In 10th grade, we had the Small Business Association do a workshop on how to apply for a loan or even a grant to start your own business in 10th grade. Wow. And that's why I called the book, when I wrote it, Preventing Student Failure, because it wasn't just about mathematics and social studies and whatever. It was preparing you for life. And like when we taught, we included something about the profession. So in language arts, we would say, if you were writing an editorial for the newspaper based on the incident that happened in this story, what would you write? So you had to write it as if you were reporting an incident. And then we would tell the police, people who wanted to be policemen, write a police report based on the incident that happened in. So we integrated their desires, what they thought. Now they could change, but at that moment, we were making learning relevant for people who didn't the purpose of being at school.
Wow.
And wow, certainly a roadmap for education.
That is.
But I want to tie it down, Nigel, because so that's this central experience. You taught as well at the Convent High School and at the St. Mary's Academy. What was the education landscape like? What was happening? Where did you fit in? You know, how much a role did you play in helping change it?
So I became a rebel later on in life. When I worked the convent and the academy, I was just starting my career. I had graduated in 75, so I started working a teacher fresh out of college. So I was a very compliant studying the landscape. But in my heart, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have enough experience to articulate what I saw needed some adjustments. So the difference back then was that before you knew what you wanted to be and you might have pursued it because everyone was saying you want to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer. Those were the three professions that you heard all along. Nothing else opened up. That was it. And therefore your goal was to pass GCE. And therefore the instruction was very, very, what I say, didactic. Here's the information, you take a test, you pass it, move on. Not even then did they tie the instruction to whether you wanted to be a doctor or they just said, make sure you know chemistry and make sure you know biology or whatever else in preparation for whatever it is you want to do when you graduate. So it wasn't tied to dreams. It was just, this is the curriculum and this is what you will be assessed on.
I'm almost getting the feeling that, Dr. LaRocque, that you seem to feel that there should be the way we teach, the way we instruct, the way the education should be, shouldn't be catered solely to passing an exam and heading in a direction that most people think you should go, which is get 7 subjects, 8 subjects, end up working whatever it is. We should find out intrinsically what is it that this person wants to be, and then tie that education to guide them towards that particular goal. Is that how you think education should be, or should it be what we have today, which is just go in there, teach, pass, good luck?
So what you just explained lacks joy. And if there's no joy, there's really no learning. There's robotic learning, but there isn't that intrinsic joy of learning. It's like doing a job you don't like, but you do it just because.
Right.
It's the same thing. And it's my experience as an educator, as I helped educators, as I helped children. And as I went back to look at the research that's foundational to education, here's what I discovered. So I think anybody who does a degree in education comes across John Dewey's work. And John Dewey has about 16 things that you should do when you instruct. What we have done in education is we have made it such a business that we take each one of those 16 things and make it a program. And neither of them can stand on their own. Whereas if we took lesson planning and incorporated those 16 things in a lesson, and I'm doing it, it can be done, you will hit many kids sitting in the classroom, even the ones where you don't know where their joy is. Because the key to successful instruction is engagement. And engagement brings joy. And I'm not talking about when you walk in and you say, today we're going to play a game. Well, we should have played something for the whole month. Every day there should be some aspect, not a game, but an aspect of doing, an aspect of inquiry, an aspect of a child asking an off-the-wall question without us saying, hold that thought, I'll get back to that. You know what happens? The child tunes out because my question wasn't important. They automatically shut down. I'm not saying you should take your lesson to another route where you lose too much time, but acknowledge the diversion.
Like that.
Otherwise, and for every one diversion, there are 4 others who say, I won't even put up my hand because she won't ask.
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
Yes.
So it begs the question, what is the purpose of education?
Yes, most times I think we are of the opinion that the purpose of education is to get your job so that you can then help your family ABC, and not the other part of it, the wholesome
Right.
component that comes with it. As someone who had her own dance group, who was involved in theater, who seemed to have a passion for the arts and so on, what about the relationship between arts and education? What role do you see arts playing in education?
So let me bridge that gap by saying that educators teach the way the system requires them to teach. It's not their fault. The environment wasn't created by them. As a matter of fact, when you try to create the right environment, you're considered a rebel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not their fault. That's why the system has to accommodate that kind of instruction. Because when you tell people by June 20th, you need to be this spot at the on the curriculum, it begs the question, does everyone learn at the same rate? Is this a matching, like the ants matching towards a piece of candy? That's not how we learn. And when you do different things, other people discover how they learn. Because I may think that because I grew up at a time when you had to listen and read, that's the only way I learn. But if I'm exposed to something else, I realize, oh, there's certain things I learn better when it's presented this way rather than that way. So let's talk about the arts and education. Culture defines who you are. Culture defines how you would like to learn. Now, unfortunately, were under so many different rules, the European rules, that our system, even when we broke away, didn't really change to reflect who we are.
Mm.
And one of the things we do very well is fragment things. So you have education over here, a division of culture over here, some other division over here, and all of them function within the space of learning. You can't teach anyone very well unless you know who they are.
Mm.
No, that doesn't mean they won't learn, because like I said, there is robotic learning. There's such a thing, like we've all said it, I just want to get out of this class. I'll just do what it takes. I don't want to repeat. But are you enjoying? How much will you remember 3 years from now? You will remember, you just wanted to get out, but you may not remember the context or the text or the learning. And therefore, we need to find ways to infuse culture in what we teach. There's culture in mathematics. It's a thing that's being explored now. There is culture in mathematics. There is culture, well, history is the whole thing unless you ban all the books, but there is culture in history. There is even culture in economics, because what you choose to grow and export is culturally bound. It's not just a thing. No, it's just not just agriculture over there on the side. And maybe if we understood agriculture well enough and how it's a part of a culture and how it defines who we are, that industry would not be looked down upon as, oh, it's just a thing people do that anybody can do. There's actually a science behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, knowing who you are, being able to infuse who your kids are in what you teach, making those cultural connections is extremely important. I actually wrote an article for Education Today, the Australian branch, and it's called Fragmentation, the Nemesis of Education.
In terms of and I want to go back, stick a little bit to the arts in terms of dance, theater, and so on. Do you think that should form part of the curriculum?
It can even form part of the mathematics curriculum because there's beats and beats are mathematically structured. So that's why I say, you You can infuse that into any subject that you teach. You just need to know how. And it doesn't mean you set aside a whole half hour of your class period to be culturally relevant. It's you can just do it and make mention of it and show the kids how it fits together. Because it shouldn't be let's do a quadrille over here and let's do mathematics over here. And I keep saying that because mathematics is important. And it can be just such a intense subject for some people, but you can create a love for it if you say, all right, when we do the quadrille, there are beats, there are steps, and you put it at, I mean, of course, if you're doing trigonometry, by then I have the joy. So I could sit down and look at all of that, but if we don't do that, we are creating a sterile culture of education. And we will increase the number of dropouts. And that's why they'll tell you, I didn't finish school and I did very well for myself.
Nigel, I really love this. I really love this part in particular because I'm thinking as well back to my days at school, at high school in particular. And I always say I never liked math, and the other subjects I did not like as well. But if they back in the day, they would incorporate culture into learning, and that would allow me and others as well to enjoy this. But yeah, that's another discussion, Nigel. But I'm just saying this because I really see where she's going to this, and this is so very true, Nigel. This is so true. When you look at the education system, some of the shortfalls that we experience that have been created. But probably that is for another discussion.
Yes.
There's so many things I want to talk to Dr. Caines about, Nigel. I like where we are right now, but we have to go back at times, just to come forward. So it's all right.
What it is. That's what it is.
We don't necessarily have to go in chronological order. But the education, I really like this, Nigel. That's the beauty of it.
I mean, we always find ways of connecting the dots, coming back and reconnecting and everything else.
Yes.
And I like the fact that we are exploring that. And as you said, this month we've been looking at education. So, we've had different, educators and different people within the education sphere. And it seems to me one of the prevailing themes throughout all the people we've had for the past 3 weeks is the whole question of education reform, that we seem to, there needs to be a shift from what we're doing and begin looking at education in a different way. Yes, we understand the fact that you have to do the subjects, you have to pass the subjects, that's what the world requires in terms of a job and so on and so on. But at the end of it all, are we really educating our people? Are we really educating, especially the young people? We seem to be losing them because now it's 10, 15, 20 subjects, 21s, 15 ones, and then we have others that's just by the side, So there definitely has to be a shift in what we're doing. Is that something you would recommend? Do you think that we are at a point where, especially in the Caribbean, and you've been exposed both to the Caribbean and to a certain extent the US and other places, do you feel we're at the point now, and I know, certain leaders have called for that as well, that we need to really begin to rethink our education system?
I think we do. I think instead of a content-based curriculum, pure content, if we approach our instruction from a skills base, and when you say that in the past, people would say, oh, just skills, but when was the last time anybody asked you about Beowulf? You did the test and you moved on, not even in class. But there is a time when someone asks you to solve a problem.
Yep.
And therefore, I think two things. We need skills and we need critical thinking. Because right now, if you're doing test-based, you're rote learning. And yes, they can ask you a question where they ask you to think, but remember, those who get it somehow innately may have the skill because it's not something that's intentionally taught. So problem solving is just one of those skills. Critical thinking, we need it. A decision. skills for life, not for a test. But you can use the content as a vehicle and get both. And they would remember it better if they had to solve a problem and use the skills.
Yes.
We need skills, we need critical thinking, we need to talk about a career in broadcasting as well. We need to look at what's happening on the book title. What are some of the comments you're seeing?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, we really have to go back and look at the book in terms of when this program is finished, because there's been a lot of conversation going on and people sharing their views and stuff. Sandra Green is saying she totally agrees relationships in the classroom extend to the home. That's a powerful pillar for success for students. Alvin Thomas, I love that comment. Education must have joy. Josephine Dublin wants to say, thanks, Rose. Teaching, learning is truly about building positive relationships. Hey, Daryl Tulo, good morning, good evening. Well, he's watching from Vienna.
Yes.
So good evening to you, Daryl Tulo. That's one of the persons we have to have as a guest at some point.
Yeah.
Good evening to you, Daryl, in Vienna. And of course, good afternoon for here with us, or good morning still. Tina Bell, the Roman, is watching as well. Judith Serafin, good morning, Rose, watching from Toronto. That's Judy and Ronnie. Sevre, of course. Faye Elwin, Martin, of course, my dear friend Faye wants to remind us that when you spoke earlier about the Jamaican that was going through the Caribbean, I think it was Rex Nettleford at the time.
Yes.
Of course, I've unfortunately passed, but one of our stalwarts of education and theater.
Oh yes. I can attest.
Yes, definitely. So the book is very busy with conversations going on. People are asking their own questions. Charles Pascal says, I remember Rose Caines during my last year at SMA. So people are, blinking the Rose Caines that they knew to the Rose now. We need to have Dr. Caines LaRocque to assist with some workshops or educators in Dominica. As Alvin mentioned that, and you mentioned very briefly about being a rebel. Do you think that this shift that we're talking about, and then we're going to get into broadcasting because you were part of that as well, do you think that shift that we're talking about in your education, it's going to require a rebel or two to begin that process? Because apparently the system is not going to be the ones to move forward with it.
So I can only talk from the work I did in my later years, before I retired. I worked with the American Federation of Teachers in Washington, D.C., and I worked with them for 10 years. My job was to create modules that's like 3 hours on specific skills that teachers were lacking, create workshops, and then COVID hit, so a lot of it was done through Zoom. That takes a different approach than if you're face-to-face. Teaching them how to do exactly that, how to change the instruction so you create joy and create a joyful learning that extends beyond the test. And that was my job. And I created over 14 modules, wrote them 3 hours, and I had a slur of teachers who became my trainers because I can only do so much by myself. I trained them, and then they trained teachers at the local level. And one thing I told them, let your principal know, see if the principal can talk to the superintendent, and if everybody sits on their hand, close your door and do what's right by the kids. If we have to wait for all this reaction, you will have lost steam. Your light that you walked away with thinking, I have something I can do for kids, will smolder. So if nobody's moving, close your door, because we always close our doors anyway, and do what's right. And when they come to evaluate you with your observation, showtime for them. When they leave, go back to what you know that's right, because it's not Dr. LaRocque saying this. It's Dr. LaRocque having done the research from way back and telling you this is research-based. This is how people learn, not what we're doing. So when one person comes with a program and say, we have a program, and nobody denies that the program can do what it's doing, but it's not holistic. It's one individual leg of that learning journey.
Yes.
And that's not good enough.
Wow. Nigel, this is really deep.
It is.
I really love this. I wish you had more time, especially on a subject like that.
I know.
There are so many areas I would like to revisit, go back to and ask some questions, but
yes.
we still have to cover in that short space
but
of time.
that ties it and connects us with the broadcasting, because in a sense, what we're doing here today is sharing the information and discussing it and I guess educating as well. Your broadcasting journey. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get involved in broadcasting? Give us a little idea there.
So that was very organic. This was not planned. This was not something on my radar at all. I think in my last year of high school, there was an essay competition, something about tourism and Dominica. And we had to send in our entries, and I won. And then Jeff Charles, the manager of DBS at the time, requested that I read my essay on the airwaves. And when I was finished, he told my father, she has the voice we're looking for. Would you mind if she works at DBS? And they were good friends, and my dad said yes. I was a little shy, but the thing was, if I didn't work out, I was actually leaving in September to go to school. So in around May, late April, May, I started to work with the DBS. And then I left to go to Cave Hill in Barbados in September. But then I developed a show of my own. I would interview interesting people on the campus and send it over to DBS. And somebody had a show on Saturdays for teenagers, and they would feature it there. And when I come back from, for the summer, I would then work with them. And that happened for like maybe 2 years. In my third year, it didn't happen. So that was my DBS.
So you worked with people like who, of course, you mentioned Jeff Charles as the manager back then. What are some of the names?
Alvin Knight was there. I think Shermaine was there when I came back from Cave Hill one of the times. And she was my student, actually, in convent.
But Rose, you're reversing in age, or because you look pretty young.
All the coconut water from Dominica.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. So tell us some of the other names you remember. Alvin Knight, you said Shermaine Green at that time.
I'm guessing the bosom buddy was there, Ted Daly, maybe?
Ted Daly, yes. Ted Daly. And I think just after Jeff passed, there was a guy, he was very closely related to a band.
Is Gordon Henderson? No, wouldn't be Gordon. Gordon was later on. Dennis Joseph.
Dennis Joseph, yes.
The Gaylords for Union.
The Gaylords, right, yeah. And then that just fizzled because I didn't do broadcast journalism in Barbados. I was going to teach, so that didn't fall through. But I'll tell you one thing. I think when I came back, I did work with them a little bit. And what I decided, I was engaged by then. And I said, these hours will not work for me because I would have the early shift at 5 o'clock in the morning, which means I would never prepare breakfast for my husband.
Tell me about it.
Then I would come back for lunch and he might or may not be there. And by the time I go back out for the afternoon shift, he's back home and then I'm on the night. I said, this will not work, including a family. So I didn't pursue it.
Dr. LaRocque, do you have a mantra? Is there a Bible verse or verses that align with you that inspires you?
The one on compartmentalizing life. The one about there's a time to cry and there's a time. Yeah, that one. Because I feel like if you have a goal, there are lots of things that are going to come at you. And if you mire in the disappointments, you will never move. And you can't mire in the disappointment and not enjoy life. So I'll give you an example. On my birthday, last year, I lost my brother-in-law. And I looked at his son and I said, there's a time to cry and there's a time to have joy. So we'll enjoy my birthday and tomorrow morning we'll move to the sad part. And we did that.
Yes, I like that.
Did that.
I like that. I like that. I like that approach.
Compartmentalize.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. Dr. LaRocque, in terms of, because I want to, because you've been involved in the arts, you started your dance group, you were in a band. By the way, Rosalind wants to remind me the band was called Mission Dimensions, I think, or something like that.
Missing Dimensions.
Missing Dimensions.
Missing Dimensions, okay.
What instrument did you play though?
Me? None.
Yeah, no.
I sang.
Oh, you were the singer. Okay.
And that band had a little offshoot as well. Jennifer Wallace and I were the singers, and we borrowed the instruments from the boys and them. We did that as well. And Missing Dimensions borrowed the instruments from Convent. And if Rosalind tells the story, she'll tell you that I joined by default because they would not allow them to take the instruments unless I was involved. I was the head girl by the time. Shout out to Lucy if she's listening, because she was my vice head girl. We made a great team. We survived Black Power in Dominica at the time, because that was rampant at the time, and we had a lot of fun.
Yes.
So what songs were you singing on stage? What was the dressing like? What was happening?
I'll tell you what my husband reminds me of. He reminds me that I had a long dress with a matching pink hat, because my mom loved hats, so he would tease me.
Wait, since then he was looking at you?
Huh?
Since that time he was looking at you, since convicting?
Oh, that's a whole other story.
Okay.
And we forget to get a scoop.
Yep, okay. House of the Rising Sun was one of my favorite songs.
Okay.
Yeah, House of the Rising Sun.
So you would boogie on stage and...
Oh, it was very much more like a
dance and gyrate and everything.
Up and you sing, and, almost like a karaoke type thing.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. But as we kind of, time is going. But in terms of, I want to go back a little bit to the dance and the fact that you had a dance group and everything else. Is that something that you probably felt, I don't want to say kept you on track, but brought that joy and developed you as a whole person? The whole idea of being in dance and being involved in theater and so on.
Yes, it did. And as a matter of fact, I actually had a dance group on campus when I went to Barbados. But I'll tell you, how I tell you about the arts and learning? One of the things that dancing taught me is how to look at something and strategize the parts and see how it flows. So and that's a skill we use in life. You make a decision, and whether you believe it or not, unless you're just making it from the heart without thinking, which is dangerous, you make the decision, and then you kind of weigh the pros and cons, and then you say, well, all right, there's a 50% chance this may happen, and then you decide what it is you would like to do. It's the same thing with dancing. You have to make a decision about which steps coordinate better with themselves and the music and what you're trying to convey. There are three parts to that come together. So yes, it does.
How do you keep in tune as well with the traditional culture of Dominica, Independence time? How do you find that balance?
Okay, so not so much up here, but in St. Croix, Laurel Roy started a Dominica group, and every national season we would put on our dresses and we would put on a show with cultural dancing. And the day after that, we would have a gathering where we would serve local Dominica food in St. Croix. So not so much, I haven't found a group up in the Washington area. I know there's one in Jersey, because my cousin's wife belonged to them at one point. I don't know if she still is a member, but in St. Croix, that fodder was kept through Laurel Roy. And Laurel's from Dominica, of course, Laurel Roy.
Oh, yes.
Dr. LaRocque, when you look back from how far back when you started, you look at where you are now, your journey in education, in the arts, in culture, and all of that. What comes to mind? in your moments of reflection?
I think what comes to mind is that everyone has a purpose. And I think so far I have fulfilled my purpose because these aren't things I sat down and said I must do. I just got an urge to do them, and the opportunity presented itself, and I went with it. It's not something I sat down and mapped out and said, this is where I have to be. And I go through life accepting what comes, not wishy-washy, because like I said, you have to sit back and see which parts flow. But there was never a big plan to be a phenomenal educator. I just wanted to teach. There was never a big plan to be a dancer. It just happened. I never even thought I would do my PhD because I didn't want to become a doctor because 7 years was just way too long. But again, everything had a purpose. And the reason for doing the PhD is I recognize that when you have those 3 letters, people listen to what you have to say much more than when you don't. So getting into meetings and people saying, Rosalind said, and then you look at nobody, and you know what you're saying is fundamental to what's being discussed, and people don't react to it. And then halfway through the meeting, someone else repeats exactly what you said, and everybody suddenly hears it. It makes better when someone says, Dr. LaRocque said, and then all ears answer. And that's the reason I did it, honestly.
Oh,
interesting.
Nigel, I just enjoy this. And I'm thinking, how do we get this message just going on every time? So what we have to do is look at getting snippets of this
and utilize it throughout. Yes.
This is so good.
So I mean, Dr. LaRocque, I know we're coming towards the end. A new school year has started in Dominica and I guess throughout the region as well. I'm always one of those that feel we should have a lot more coordinated efforts among the Caribbean for education system. But that's a different topic altogether. I don't think Dominica is doing its thing. Jamaica saying we should have a Caribbean thing, although we have CXC, but yet still we're not coordinated. But as we come towards the end, what are your thoughts or what thoughts you want to share with our educators, specifically in Dominica for this new school year, our teachers and everybody else?
So first of all, they need to follow their heart. They need to have a plan of what it is they would like to accomplish this year, in addition to whatever the government has put as the benchmark. More importantly, somebody said they would be happy if I came to do sessions, but I would want people to know that if I came to do sessions, I'm not coming in as the person who went out and coming back more knowledgeable than anyone else. I am coming in to learn from you as well, because unless I understand your circumstance, I can tweak what I know to help you. So I have a frame. I can't just bring the frame and say, this is the answer, without knowing what your frame is and to see where the frames can meet so that you can do years and years of research-based strategies of instruction. So read more, be careful, because everybody has a program. I referred to Dewey earlier on. If you looked at Dewey's points and said, how can I develop a lesson that hits those 12? You'd be on, it is a great start. And I don't have the link in my head, but if you go to educationtoday.com/AUS Australia, and then when it comes up, you put my name in the search link, you will see the 3 articles that I wrote for them.
Okay, that's my homework. I'll do that. That's my homework. Nigel, I'm looking at the time. There's another program on, and we have to end.
Yes, we do.
We have to end. The time just goes by so quickly when we are connecting the dots. And when it comes to the discussions like this, I really like that, Nigel. I mean, I really love discussions like this.
It is the reason why we do this. It's the reason why we connect with our people on a Saturday during this hour and a half to share, to learn, to discuss.
Yeah. You see how things happen? I mean, we just had to connect with Dr. LaRocque. We had to make this happen.
We had to.
And I'm pleased for this.
And we're very happy we were able to do it. Very happy to connect with her during this time.
Yeah, but kudos to my brother-in-law for doing this.
Yes, Ambassador LaRocque, yes. Well, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure spending some time with you. Yeah, keep looking at us when you can, when you have the time. You know, give us your feedback at times as well.
Yes.
And we will stay on the education for a little while still, Nigel.
Yes.
In fact, Nigel, I have so many requests. I'm not sure how we're going to keep it because we also have to focus on so many other things, independence, all of that. But we'll make it happen. Dr. LaRocque, it was really a pleasure spending that time with you. I learned a lot myself. It was like a classroom setting for me, and at the same time, we were having fun. Imagine that.
I enjoyed myself.
So, Nigel, we'll do it again next week.
We'll do it again next week, my dear. Appreciate it. Thanks again, Dr. LaRocque, for connecting with us this Saturday, and continue to listen up every Saturday where we connect with other people and share their journey and share their stories and learn from each other. Appreciate it.
Thanks to those who listen on radio and on viewed us on YouTube and on Facebook as well. All the comments, all the questions, I'll go over them again. And it was surely a pleasure. We'll do it again next week, God willing. Let's connect. Okay. Take care, Dr. LaRocque.
And I want to please compartmentalize. You did that today.
She did.
By being
Definitely. Yes. Helen, you know, Nigel.
That's good. That's
okay.
Good.
Let's do this next week.
We'll do it again next week. All the best.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.